Good evening. Welcome. Got some good news tonight in case you haven't heard. I can't imagine if you're a Gator fan, you haven't, especially basketball. Big news. Looks like Todd Golden's allegations have been dropped. The suit is passe, and now the Gators can focus on winning some basketball games. This is a huge, huge story. If you watched over the weekend, the league championship games were played. I'm sure Shane did that. We'll talk about that, other things tonight on the program, and we'll get your comments right here on the Buddy Martin State Show. Stay tuned, and we'll be looking for those comments shortly. So we will catch up to you on the other side. Stay tuned.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening and welcome to Meldon Law Monday with Buddy Martin. I am Buddy Martin. The program is heard 4 nights a week and sometimes for other places and times. Tonight's a special program. We got big news. Sometimes it starts going your way. You think maybe things are going our way. Not so much the case here about a year ago. And now suddenly things are starting to go Florida's way. Big news today when it was announced that the Timeline suit has been dropped against Todd Golden. They're off to a fantastic start, 118 out of 20. Could be their year. And this might be the difference. This might be the thing that makes a difference, as we'll find out tonight from our guests, Shane Matthews, Scott Carter, and Franz Beard has been on top of this story from day one. Let's go over now to the Orange and Blue Room and find Shane Matthews. What's up, Shane?
How we doing, buddy?
I'm doing great tonight. It's a great night for the Gator fans of basketball. I'm sure you heard all the news. Although you've been playing golf most weekend, I'm sure you watched the NFL games. First, your reaction to what we got going on here with the news that Todd Golden's not going to have to worry about this anymore.
Well, I mean, obviously it's good news for him and the Gator basketball team, and they can kind of put it behind them, I guess, and just focus on basketball. The team is off to the greatest start in the history of the program and have a tough stretch coming up the next 4 games, have a little time off. So it's a good basketball team. They're very good. They're very athletic, fun to watch. And I think everybody expects them to make a deep run in the tournament.
Yeah, and I would say the timing is perfect. This league is not getting any easier. It's unbelievably difficult on the road, as you know. Although, how about Florida crushing the Georgia Bulldogs? I mean, crushing them, annihilating a 30-point win over the Bulldogs. And Mike White not too happy about some things there. So that's not a big win, but it is a rival. When you do that, you beat a rival like that, it's a sweet win. This basketball team, it still has some good games to play. It still has a lot of potential left. What is the thing that gives you the most encouragement about the team right now, Shane?
I mean, it's a team that's been constructed that it can make a deep run. I mean, you don't have to focus on one guy. If somebody's not having a great night, they have plenty of other guys that can step up and make plays and score points. And, it's somebody different, it seems like, every game. But, they're deep. I think they're very deep. I think they got great guard play. Got some good bigs that are bouncy, that can run the floor. I mean, it's a damn good basketball team.
Block shots, rebound. I mean, they play with great reckless abandon. They got guys sitting on the bench who'd be starting a lot of places. Denzel Aberdeen being one of those guys. They got a terrific 3-guard rotation going on already, and on a given night, any one of those guys can beat you. And about Will Richard, how he's playing now. Now they've got the Ruben playing great. So this team, and guess what? They got Handloden waiting to come back. 7-1, he's wonderful rebounder. So this guy comes back. My gosh, Shane, their best basketball is yet ahead of them.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure he's coming back. Chris Harris on my show last week said he was going to redshirt, and this came out the other day that he was going to play. I don't know how to take it because you got such good chemistry and things are going so well. It's going to take away other people's minutes. I don't know how to – I don't know. I mean, I'm going to leave that up to Todd Golden and the training staff and all that. If they think he should play, it can help the team, great. If not, that's good too. You can still redshirt. So we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Well, according to the stories I read from France Beard, he talked about how he was going to come out and play on Sunday night, but he had second thoughts about it. Friday night. Well, what night was it? Saturday night. And he had second thoughts about it. And France seemed to think it was because of the seriousness of the injury, the terrible fracture. He mentally wasn't ready to. We'll get that from Scott Carter in just a minute. He'll join us. France will join us later on as well. But so it didn't like they haven't got enough weapons already. And the league is getting tougher. It seems like every time you pick up, they got 13 of them ranked now. Yeah, it's just remarkable.
Yeah, it's a tough basketball league. It's Vanderbilt is playing as well as anybody right now, and
over Kentucky.
Our next 4 games are very difficult. So, if we can go 3-1 or 2-2 in those, I'll be happy.
Yeah, for sure. All right, before we go, Scott, real quick, give me your take on I'm never going to doubt Patrick Mahomes again. I mean, that guy is amazing, and I think this is a team that teaches that they're built for the minute. They know how to get it done when the time happens. When they need the key play, they get it. And isn't this the way you like for your team to always play? Need a big play, make a play, and they make it, don't they?
Well, I said about 4 or 5 years ago that I thought Patrick Mahomes would be the greatest quarterback to ever play, and I still stand by that. I think he will break all of Brady's records for Super Bowls and Super Bowl wins. I mean, but he's been a starter for 7 years. They played in the AFC Championship all 7 years, and he's going to his 5th Super Bowl. I mean, think about that. It's crazy. I think as long as he stays healthy and Andy Reid's there, they're not going anywhere. I know people hate him. I get it. He gets some calls. It's no different than when Alabama was in their run, when the Patriots were in their run, even when the Bulls. I mean, Jordan used to get calls, right?
Yeah.
He'd get, so it's greatness. And I think people are tired of it, but I think it's phenomenal the way that they find ways to win in the National Football League. It's hard to win games in that league, but they found a way, boy, and they are good, and they ain't going anywhere.
I'm surprised how physical he got late in that game last night. It looked like he was just taking shots, and he was throwing his body at that goal line. And I got to give it – I didn't think the guy was big enough to play over a long period of time in the league, but he's proven he is.
He's like 225, so he's plenty big enough.
It looks like he's just not – should be taking those kind of hits. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's smart. He's smart and
physically.
He's so good, it's scary.
Yeah, he is. Let's go talk to Scott real quick, get some basketball stuff going here. He can give us the latest information. Let's see if Scott is there. Scott stepped away for a second. All right, Scott will be back in a minute, and when he does, we'll join him. While we're doing this, let's see. We'll go ahead and there he is. All right.
Sorry about that.
Scott, right. That's okay, Scott. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Good. I just wanted to get your take here before we shift subjects about the basketball team, about whether or not Hangloden is a guy that would redshirt, and the great news they got today about Todd Golden. I mean, that is a huge, in life and as sports, these things, when these kind of things happen, they are game changers. What kind of a game changer is this today for the Florida program that now have dropped the Title IX suit against Todd Golden?
Well, I mean, it's obviously, I think, more of a game changer, just in my view, for Todd Golden. When you look at the team, it's been hovering around them all season, really. I don't see it impacting them that much. But if you're Todd Golden, you know that it's weighed heavy on him. And so, yeah, if I was in his shoes and I got the same news that he did today, I'd be breathing. I'd be sleeping a little bit easier tonight. And certainly, anytime anyone's involved in something like that, you're wanting to get it behind you. So we'll see. But I think it was definitely a positive day for him and for the program because regardless, I mean, as long as he's whoever's coach of the Florida Gators, you get involved in off the field news, it carries over to the program. So that's kind of just the way I view it.
Scott and Shane, these are the kind of stories that come up, and you always have doubt about whether they're going to survive. There's this whole thing. It's kind of things like it's a hanging noose. These kind of stories come out. Most often, they don't go the way of the individual if it's a guy, and many presume you to be guilty, or automatically because they said so. And Scott, I'm told that he had told friends all along, I didn't do this. I'm not guilty. And they got that big lawyer out of Tampa, to believe him because he took his suit. And still, right down to the end, people thought, well, they'll play out. Something will happen. They'll get by off the woman or whatever case. Fact is that he came out of this thing clean. They got a home run out of it. And it makes you wonder how many times people are wrongly accused, Shane, and what happens to the people don't have the money to fight it. This was a big, big win for him and for the program and for justice, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like Scott said, it's good news for Todd Golden for the basketball program from the University of Florida. I'm not smart enough to know. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how any of that works. That's why they get paid the big bucks. So. It is what it is.
I don't know what was being said behind closed doors or whatever, but I know that he was telling people, and people were telling me they heard him say, "This, I'm going to get off of this." Did you hear the same thing, Scott?
Not specifically in that way. I mean, I think I took it as when you first read about it, it was alarming. It was kind of shocking. That's why it made national news the way it did. But you see enough of these cases play out publicly, whether in sports or entertainment or politics. And generally, if it lingers on for too long without some kind of resolution, there's more proof that comes forward or somebody goes on the record or there's images from the social media. Well, when that stuff didn't pop up, that kind of hinted in the direction that we landed today, in my eyes.
Yeah, good point.
That was the way I looked at it. And, again, I think we've seen a lot of these cases, especially in the last few years with the Me Too. I mean, there's been some bad characters like Harvey Weinstein and Jeffrey Epstein to get busted, and I'm glad they did. But also when you're the media and you're using anonymous sources, and if somebody has a bone to pick with you and they file one of these, it's really hard to defend yourself publicly. So that's just what he's had to endure. And again, I hope that it ends well for everybody. And it's just one of those things, man. It just came out of the blue, and here we are.
Talk about the strength of this team. I mean, you can talk about just a rebound alone. Fantastic rebounders, and especially offensive rebounds, which is one of the real tough things to do. And then you take the shooters, and then you take the 3 guard rotation, and now 4 if you want to put the other guy in there. And the bigs are playing great. I mean, they alone are impressive. What part of this team, or is it just the whole team together, Scott and Shane, the whole, you said they got a lot of talent, a lot of depth. What is the most impressive part about this team? Start with you, Dave, Shane.
I mean, it's talent. I mean, it's like I said earlier, they're well constructed. Everybody understands their role. I think the thing that a lot of people, and I firmly believe this, Walter Clayton Jr. and Elijah Martin were elite high school football players. Okay. And I've said this multiple times. When you find athletes who've played multiple sports, it translates into just dudes that get it done. And I firmly believe that just their mentality, the way they play, they're the two guys that make this team go. I'm a huge Will Richard guy because he's kind of a tweener, but with their football mentality, I just think it just takes them to a different level.
Scott, you agree?
That's a good point Shane makes. I've always kind of thought that way myself because, when we were growing up, you played 2, 3, 4 sports and you really, really got well-rounded. And now guys don't do that as much and it's harder to do. And so when you do have those guys, you can see, Elijah Martin, you can see the toughness. I could easily see him being at linebacker in a football game. Walter Clayton, I could see him being a running back or a receiver. They have those tangible skill sets that translate. But I was having this conversation today. I think Shane hit on a good point earlier about this team. One guy not scoring, they have enough to cover it when needed. And the rebounding is obviously huge. Just the hustle factor from guys like,
Alex Condon.
Yeah, I'm blanking right now. Chinyelu and Howe and those guys inside Condon. They're just always around the ball, man. They're getting the ball, every loose ball. And you saw that against Georgia the other day, early in that game when they were really turning up the defense. Every 50-50 ball was going forward his way, and they converted a lot of those chances. And soon you look up, and they're up by 15 or 16, and you get the feeling that this could be a game much like the Tennessee game was, where they took control early, and it was never a game, and that's the way it played out. But I was having a conversation, too, with someone in the basketball program after the game. I think you can make the case for Walter Clayton. He might be the best. I think he's definitely the best scoring point guard Florida may have ever had. You got some good ones like Scotty Wilbekin, who was SEC Player of the Year in 2014. Some other good point guards over the years. Obviously, Jason Williams in his short tenure, he might be the most talented point guard Florida's ever had. He didn't play here that long. But what I've seen from Walter Clayton, man, he's just a really good point guard, and he gets to the basket in ways that you think he's stuck in the lane, and somehow he finds a way and lays it up, and he just has a knack for making plays, man, and that just bodes well for your team when that's the guy who has the ball the most.
Good point, creating a shot. I just didn't have the idea Ruben Chienda was as good as he was, Shane. I just see him coming. I love how he battles on the glass, puts the ball back up. He handles the ball pretty good for a big man. He's a plus. Did I just miss him, Shane, or what?
Well, no, he's a guy they went after heavily in the portal from Washington State, and big, strong guy. He's a double-double about every game, I think, in conference play. He's averaging that, I believe.
Yeah, well, he certainly impresses me. So now they got their work cut out for them on the road now. They got to play some top teams. I was talking to friends earlier. He'll be on later. He says they could lose 5 or 6 games and still win 24 games this year. I don't know. I think you can get knocked off on Oxford, Mississippi, or Knoxville, or Starkville, whatever along the way. There's some tough outs here with this thing. And will they end up cannibalizing each other and not get all their good teams up? That's the question. I think right now there's enough quality. We certainly think the top 3 or 4 teams are good enough to win it all.
Yeah, I think so. I was just looking at the standings here as we start. You're right. There's 10 teams ranked. And, all those teams are going to be dangerous in the tournament. And, they are going to beat each other up some as the season progresses. But I think by the time the tournament rolls around, I think the national pundits will be talking about 2 or 3 teams from the SEC at least with a chance to win it all. And I just, we haven't been able to say that a lot over the years. It's usually been Kentucky and Florida and maybe another team once in a while. Arkansas had that run in the 90s. But that speaks a lot to the investment in basketball and the coaching right now in the league.
How surprised are we that Vanderbilt knocked off Kentucky?
That's like, man, Vanderbilt's rolling this year, man. Beat Alabama in football, Kentucky in basketball.
Yeah.
That's like
they beat Tennessee in basketball too.
That's right, yeah. The Commodores.
Yeah, about the Commodores for sure. Yeah, so it's going to be an exciting year. All right, guys, stand by for a second. I'll do this commercial. We should be getting friends on the other side. Get your take on that and any football thoughts we might have. Looks like things are going well for Billy on the other side of things. And we'll talk about that and still this stuff right here on the Buddy Martin Show. Stay tuned. Coming back now. Tell you about our sponsor, Meldon Law. I talked to Jeffrey today. He's doing well. Told me today the news that his daughter is coming to the business. There'll be another Meldon at Meldon Law. So what he says, when you call Meldon Law, you got a good chance of getting a Meldon. He wasn't kidding about that. Of course, they're known now for their association with Florida, huge sponsorships, support all over the place for Meldon Law, and they're the official law partner, injury law partner of the University of Florida. I say to you that I've used them on a legal matter recently, and by the way, they do legal matters, and I'm very pleased with the response I'm getting from them. And if you're not happy with the lawyer you got right now, call them up and see if you can do a trade-in, or maybe you can get a second opinion. Meldon Law will take care of you, especially if you're a Gator. Meldon Law, they don't back down. Who's your favorite player, Scott, on the basketball team?
That's a good question. I mean, I've said Elijah Martin a couple of times just because I love the toughness that guy brings. And I think that's something maybe they lacked last year, just the kind of player he is. And, you know, he was really good early in that Georgia game. I think he had 11 points in the first 10 minutes or so. Great finisher around the basket. He'll hit the open shot once in a while. He can hit a three. Good defender. Those are always my favorite kind of players, buddy, the guys who just aren't afraid to get dirty, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I've announced mine. I think people get tired of me hearing me say it, but I love Alex Condon. Big guy that passes the ball well, runs well, rebounds well, plays with tenacity. Just love watching him play and shoot the three. Good. Franz Beard, how about your favorite Gator basketball player?
Tommy Hawk. I just love the energy that he brings into the game. And he's a guy that really doesn't worry about stats. He just figures out what the team needs, and then he does it. Guys like that are glue guys on teams, and they make teams better because you can be having an off night rebounding, and he'll come in as a team, and he'll come in and get rebounds, and he's not afraid to defend people. Great. You talk about toughness. He's another one. He's like Elijah Martin. He's extremely tough. Gets in there, battles with the big guys, and afterward, when you talk to him about what he did, he just kind of grins like, "Oh, isn't that what I'm supposed to do?" And I like guys like that. I like guys that they're, you know, when you say, "Well, you were doing this today," and he says, "Well, isn't that what I'm supposed to do?" He doesn't complain about anything. Maybe he doesn't practice, but he doesn't after the games or on the court or anything like that. He just shows up and plays.
Shane, who's your favorite Gator basketball player?
Walter Clayton. He's a smooth operator, boy. I just like the way he plays. Looks like he's in slow motion half the time.
He plays a lot like Shane did in pickup ball back in the day.
Dang right.
Joe Cool. Okay, I want to ask you guys a question. I've been sitting and waiting tonight. You've both been around sports a long time, and you've seen these kind of things happen. There are certain things that happen to a program at a time when they are definitive in terms of what they mean to the program. And I won't go back as far as saying when Shane came to Florida or whatever the case may be, or Spurrier came to Florida, whatever, let's just say that events off the court sometimes or off the field that can happen, that could change things. And you get a sense, like when Tebow came to Florida, France, we knew there was something going on right away. You could tell that. When you have these moments when things happen, you think, yeah, this really is going to have a huge impact. I got that feeling that happened today with the Florida Gator basketball team. And if they wind up in the Final Four, we'll be talking about this even more. But is this that big a deal? Start with you, Scott. Could this be the thing that puts this team towards you? Everybody wants to have a crucible. They want to have a tough time and get over it. Could this be viewed as their crucible?
You're saying the golden news today?
Well, yeah, the fact that he was considered to be guilty before he incident, and then he now has been reversed. He's over this thing is behind him now, and they're moving on. This is a huge factor in the future of the basketball team.
Well, I mean, I think it can only help. Like we talked earlier, I mean, I think it's bigger for obviously Golden. After being around, these college athletes for as long as I have now, they're pretty resilient. I mean, I don't think they get caught up in a lot of the stuff that we might think they do. But yeah, no doubt that it's got to relieve some of the pressure around the building. I mean, that's a serious situation they were in. So, but again, they're 18-2 while they were dealing with it. So they've done pretty well. But if it's something they can use as a rallying point internally inside the building, hey, go for it. See if it helps them.
Okay. France, how big is this?
I think it's bigger for Scott Strickland than it is for anybody else because because if Scott had stuck with him and then all of a sudden the Title IX thing says he's guilty of sin, Scott Strickland would have signed his own ticket out of town. He stuck with him, and that's going to resonate throughout the building. He stuck with Billy Napier earlier in the year. That went well. He stuck with Todd Golden here. That's going well. I think it's a big moment for Scott because it almost validates what he did in sticking with Billy Napier. It's big for the program. It's big for Todd Golden. Todd told me after the Tennessee game, and I'd had some texts back and forth before that, but I asked him point blank, face to face, out in the parking lot by his car. I said, "Did you do it?" I said, I said, "I'm your friend either way, but tell me, did you do it?" And he said, point blank, "No, I did not." And I take, this kind of, I believed him then. I believed before. Because here's the thing, guys. If they'd had the goods on him and had pictures on him, he'd have been out of here a long time ago. The fact that they did, okay, where's the evidence? There is none. And this was not a local crew hired to clean things up and make it look good. This is a California firm that investigated that has no dog in this fight whatsoever. And they came away saying there is no evidence. So a big deal all the way around. But like I said, I think for Scott Strickland, it's a huge moment because all the goodwill that he pulled off in sticking with Billy Napier would have been wiped out if this had come back with he's guilty of sin.
Good point. I think, Shane, that Strickland needed this moment too. I mean, since the 16th of November when things started going well for him, but he was in deep doo-doo for a long time. People were calling for his head too as well. And so these two guys, these two moments are really, I wouldn't say some vindicated him, but sure put him back in better graces, don't you think?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, our athletic department, programs, they're pretty, the ones that they're cranking up right now are all pretty damn good. So, like I said, it's good news. I don't think any of that stuff affected the way the basketball team played at all, though. I mean, hell, they're 18-2, best record ever in the history of Florida Gator basketball. So I don't think it affected them at all.
Well, with the whole thing is a perception for Scott Strickland, who was in hot water. He needed the victory. He needed something good to happen. I don't know how much criticism you get, but we get a lot of criticism of Strickland on this program.
We do, but I mean, everybody has their opinions. That's the great thing about sports talk radio stuff. A lot of people don't agree with what I have to say. I don't really give a damn. I mean, it's my opinion, right? I may not agree with them. So, it's. I mean, look. Whether it's good for Scott, it's great for Scott. It's great for the University of Florida. It's great for the athletic program. It's great for the basketball team. And I don't think any of them are even worried about it now. They're going to continue playing basketball like they've been doing all year long.
Well, you never get that message board mentality anyway. So
no,
we are more attuned to that than you are because
I got way too much other stuff to do, buddy, than listen. Like Nick Saban said, why in the hell would any of my players need to listen to some fat dudes in their underwear sitting on a couch?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of those fat dudes out there.
Yeah,
and a lot of them do.
I resemble that remark.
Yeah, I think that you need to win as many people over as you can to your program, whether they're the fat dudes or whatever. But the fact is that the sentiment has not been going their way. And I think it's improved a good bit since then. All right. Changes. We got some news that they've got a defensive coordinator. I know we've all talked about it, written about it. I didn't know a lot about Sunseri until I read his background, and then I realized I didn't know who he was. And apparently comes pretty highly rated. He was just hired by Jacksonville State on the 3rd of January. Now he's already been hired by Florida. People are saying a lot of good things about this guy. We know he played for Alabama. He played for Saban, that he is well thought of. Shane, what do you know about him, and what do you think about what you know?
I know nothing about him, buddy. I do remember him playing at Alabama. Obviously, his dad's been a long-time college coach. I don't know where his dad's coaching these days. But, look, a lot of people on my show weren't real happy with the hire, but again, it's not their choice, right? If you want to worry about hiring people, go coach your own team. I don't get caught up in that stuff because I'm going to trust what Billy, if it's a guy that he thinks is going to help the program, I'm all for it.
All right, Scott, what's the word on Sunseri?
Well, I know a lot more about him today than I did a couple of days ago, although I remember him playing against the Gators in that 2012 game up there with Driscoll and company. I think it was 21-21 at halftime, but then turnovers fell apart in the second half. But I remembered him as a player at Alabama, won a national title there as a freshman in 2011. His dad, Sal, was linebackers coach there that year, went to Tennessee, went to Florida State, ended up at Florida in 2018, was the defensive line coach in Mullen's first year. So Vinny Sunseri grew up around the game. His dad is at Colorado now, his 16th stop in coaching. So really? Dad's been around. He's been at Florida State, Alabama, NFL. Now he's at Colorado with Dion. So this guy, his brother Tino, is quarterbacks coach at Indiana. They actually met this year for the first time ever. They're only a year or two apart. But when Indiana played Washington this year in October, it was the first time the two brothers had ever met in a game. But, obviously Gator fans are wanting to know about this guy as a coach. And he's been with the Patriots in Washington last year, the college Washington. Before that, he was with the Patriots for a few years. So he's a young coach. And I was telling somebody today, it kind of reminds me what Billy had set up at Louisiana with Roberts and Armstrong as the mentor. And it kind of got reversed here. Roberts took over kind of calling the defense, and now Roberts is the veteran guy. Sunseri's the young guy. He was served under Bill Belichick's son last year at Washington. Steve Belichick was a DC out there. So, I mean, this guy, like I said, he knows football. He's been around the game his whole life. And now it's kind of like Shane said, this is what Billy did. And this is why I love sports, guys. We don't know if it's a good or bad hire, but we'll know next December what the record says, how the guys play. So
I'm still trying to figure out the Austin Armstrong thing, friends, exactly what happened there. One day he was a hot guy, next day he wasn't, the next day he's gone. I don't quite know what that was about. Can you figure that out, friends?
I think you got to go with the guy as your coordinator, who the players, when they hear him speak, they respond. And I'm not so sure that players were responding to Austin Armstrong in a manner that Billy maybe thought was best for the team. I know this, that when Ron Roberts went up to the booth and started calling down the defense, things got better instantly. Maybe that's 40 years of experience working for you. I don't know. But something clicked with him up in the booth that wasn't clicking with Austin Armstrong making the calls. And my guess is Austin wanted to go someplace and call defenses again and get back into some sort of a groove. He's still only, 31, 32 years old. Still a young guy. Still time to salvage his career. The one thing you would hope is that he would not go in the tank forever, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's coaching junior high football in Waxahachie, Texas. So I'm glad he's got a second chance at Houston, and I hope the best for him. But I believe that Billy had to make a decision on this and go with the guy that his guys respond to, and that's Ron Roberts.
Let me ask you a question. This is kind of personal, not at you, Shane, but I think there's a certain physical presence of a coach that's needed. His body language, his stature. To me, Austin Armstrong looked like a kid who was a high school coach. I could never get over that for some reason. Take a look at Sincerity. He looks like a man, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that's the prerequisite for being a coach, but sometimes when you don't respect a physical presence, Shane, does that impact the player?
I mean, it may. I from my standpoint, I don't think so. I think players react to coaches by your relationship with them, how you coach them, how you teach them, how you explain things. I mean, you can have the guy that cusses and dog cusses you and screams and whatever. And yeah, you could be like, oh, I gotta really respect this guy. Or you can just have a guy who, like Coach Spurrier, laid back, tells goofy jokes and coaches a different way, and you respect them. So I think it's however you want to react as a player. But I think it comes down to how you teach it, how you explain it, and then the players will respect you that way.
But you take the difference in Steve Spurrier and Austin Armstrong and put them side by side. You tell me through his actions, his words and deeds, and his aura as a player, Spurrier was always going to have that respect. And I just want, well, anyway, I just wondered about that, whether that would be some people that, like, there's certain coaches that command respect the minute they step on the field. You just feel it and you see players reacting. At least I always thought that. All right, Shane, I'll let you go and get these other characters to help me through this football knowledge and other changes and what have you. Good news, there's a guy might be coming on the staff whose name we all know well. We'll be able to know about it soon. Be very nice to hear that name on the staff again. Shane, who's on the program tomorrow besides this outstanding old sports writer you have on Tuesdays?
We'll have Mike Morgan from the SEC Network on tomorrow. Talk a little college hoops.
Well, he can do it. He's been calling a lot of games. All right, Shane, we'll see you in the morning. Thanks very much. Check him out.
All right, guys, take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, guys, let's tell you about Titan MRI, and then I want to talk about a little bit about how things are shaping up now. I see a lot of polls recently. Florida seems to be, these way too early polls. They get ranked up by something. But I saw one tonight that Find by Mess, I've got Crawford on, who picked his top 10 quarterbacks. And guess who was on the list? DJ Lagway. I find that hard to believe, but that's the way it goes preseason. So hold that thought for a second. Let's talk about what preseason means, if anything. First, I'll tell you about our friends at Titan MRI and Imaging. Now, Titan MRI and Imaging, it used to be called just Titan MRI. They acquired Highfield MRI. Joe Coloria started Highfield MRI in 1997. Now he's back. There's 3 locations, 2 in Gainesville with its Park Avenue location, and now Millennium Center, 1 in Lake City, serving all Columbia County, and 1 in Valdosta, Georgia. Soon coming to Marion County in Ocala, Florida. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service, accepts insurance through their self-convenient pay options. Check them out. They offer MRI, CT scans, X-rays, and ultrasound. Easy scheduling, lots of options, including evenings. Check them out. Titan MRI Imaging. You'll be glad you did. All right, guys. It feels like how can I sum this up? I guess we can say that Florida has survived the portal, right? Would you agree with that? They've lost a couple, but not a major disaster. They maintained their guys. They got their good players coming in early. I know there's some hiccups along the way, but overall, Scott, how do you assess what's going on right now with the program in terms of the portal? I know they got another opening in the portal on the 16th of April. How do you think it's gone so far? You think Florida's helped itself, and you give them a plus or a minus for the offseason?
Well, I think the recruiting class is the biggest development during the offseason. I mean, I thought this was their best recruiting class under Billy. I think they definitely helped themselves there. The portal, I think they've added 5 guys so far, if I'm right. The punter, the receiver from UCLA, you got the defense lineman from UMass, Caraway, the latest one from the DB, and I know I'm missing one. I think there's 5. I don't have them right here in front of me. Yeah. So I think they might still find a way to get another guy or 2 in the portal. It seems to me like they'd like to have another offensive lineman, even though they got a veteran team coming back. I feel like anytime you can just add some experience even if he's a backup, it's just so important in the game. And so I think I give them a really good grade on the recruiting class. Their best under Billy. Portal, I don't think it's as good as it was in 2024, if we're going to count this 2025. I mean, you got a couple receivers that time. I do like Sturdivant from UCLA. I think he was an important pickup. But they were not as active, or at least they didn't sign as many players as they did last year. And, you got Gum last year in the portal. He really helped them. DK, I mean, they had some really nice pieces in the portal last year. So hopefully some of these guys they brought in are impact players.
Friends, you wrote something recently, I think, talking about how well he thought they did in the portal. And go ahead.
I think he did very well because he's not just doing wholesale recruiting in the portal and the old throw enough stuff against the wall and some of it will stick approach, which some of these teams seem to be doing out there. He's been very careful the way he's brought the portal. I mean, it seems fewer players every year. And here's an interesting stat. The final 4 teams in the last 2 years, each of them had less than 10 guys from the portal on their team. So I think it's a good sign when you're developing your own players and you're not depending on winning and losing based on somebody who's a hired gun, let's just say. And I think, I think you have to do it strategically. It's like taking Tommy Donnan as the punter. This kid that they have signed, who's coming in as a high school kid, they say when he really gets one, when he really whacks it, it just goes forever. But there's a problem with some consistency with him, and he's never played in a big arena. So you bring in a guy who's used to putting before 110,000 people, and you let him kind of show the way. I think that that this is one of the best ways to do it. You develop your guys, you bring in guys strategically, and then you get the job done. They needed an extra body for the edge. Quite frankly, guys, I think that Florida's defense is going to be really, really good next year. And I think the offense is going to be so good that the defense only has to be good, doesn't have to be great. So I think I like the way he's done things. I'm not really sold on this wholesale approach in the portal. I think Kentucky must have, counting guys who've come and gone, Kentucky's dealing with about 50 guys there from the portal. How are they? They're 4-8 this year. How are you going to rebuild when you're talking about that kind of attrition and bringing in new guys who are hired guns?
Yeah, that's the mercenary part as well. All right, Scott, you read a lot of these other websites and stuff. By the way, if you haven't checked out stock stuff on FloridaGators.com, really good stuff there if you want to keep up with it. We read it daily. And you hear a buzz and you hear things, how things are going back and forth. Hard to tell much because there's not any real substantive things on there, but you do have a feel like I see this trend. It seemed like Florida was a trendy team recently in the last 4 to 6 weeks. People say, oh, there's Florida Gators, watch out for them. There was a time when nobody was talking about it. Now they say, well, I'm going to round out my top 10 with the Florida Gators. There's a lot more of that going into it, Scott. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah, without question. I mean, like that's what happens when you win at the end and you gain that momentum and you have a good recruiting class. And suddenly, the Gators, they'll open the preseason in the top 25. Haven't been ranked, guys, in the AP poll now since going back to that loss at Kentucky in 2023. Didn't crack the poll last year. So, I mean, that's progress right there. And I think whenever you have a player that is as tantalizing as DJ Lagway, that adds to the discussion, obviously. He's still a young player. He's got a lot to do, a lot to grow. But I think we've seen enough that he was not your typical freshman last year. And I think he's going to continue to get better. And that's such a building block to have in your program. I mean, if he continues to progress, DJ Lagway is going to do some big things at Florida. I'm all in on the guy. I think he's an excellent sophomore to be college quarterback to have on your roster to build around. And I'm like Franz. I do like this team heading into this year. The most I've liked any Florida team in a long time, quite frankly. I just think that eventually, you've got to go out and win these games. Some of the big ones, eventually you have to beat those top 10 teams to be a top 10 team. And I think that's the next step for the program. Can you do that in 2025?
Looking at it this way, and I'll let you go, Scott. I know you've been on a long time. After this, looking at it this way, opportunity never knocked louder than this year, where Florida has 12-team playoffs now system. They got their defense fixed, we think, with a coordinator. It's clear Billy's going to call the plays. Nobody else is going to do that. And they've got a really good they got a difficult schedule, maybe as difficult as last year, but they're more prepared to beat that thing. And this team is capable of beating anybody on the schedule this year. So if ever there was an opportunity, this is it this year to make a jump up and get in the playoffs. What would it mean this program to get 8-9 wins and get in the playoffs, Scott?
I mean, it would be huge because we've never been in the playoffs, guys, and it's a decade old now. And I would have, if you told me back in 2014 that I'd be saying that in 2025, I'm like, yeah, you're crazy, man. But that's just the reality. And I truly do think this is the best opportunity that they've ever had. I mean, I know they were really good in that COVID season. They put up some really good numbers. But I think this team is more complete. I think it has some better pieces to build around. And again, it all goes back to me to DJ. I mean, he's going to determine a lot of this. A great quarterback play can cover some of your other weaknesses. He'll need help, obviously. That's why I think Sturdivant's important coming in. Some of these other receivers that we've talked about, like Aiden Mizell and Tank Hawkins, they're going to need to contribute. I feel really good at running back with what they have. Offensive line is, they've been tested. They showed that I think they were underrated last year. I mean, they played really well for most of the season. But yeah, buddy, I think I can't really. It would be huge. I mean, that's the only way I can say it, because they've been waiting for that breakthrough in this modern era that we're in, and it hasn't happened. And I think they're in their best position to make it happen, at least in 5 years.
I saw a list today, a recent list by a national organization, the centers in America who had the highest grades. Who do you think was number one?
Jake the Snake.
Up there, right?
What'd you say, Brendan? I mean, Brendan. What'd you say, France?
Jake the Snake Slaughter.
Correcto. Number one in the country for a grade. That is a hell of an impressive stat to me.
And yet the SEC coaches couldn't even put him on the third team, and he makes first team Associated Press All-America, which just goes to show you the coaches aren't the ones that vote. It's the SIDs who vote, and half the SIDs wouldn't know. The only thing they know about football is it's got a pointy end at both ends of it, and some of them have a stripe that goes around it, and some of them don't. But that's the equivalent of an awful lot of our SIDs who, let's just say that the days have gone when you had a guy like Norm who really lived and breathed and ate and slept it. And we don't have those kind of guys as your SIDs anymore, and they're the ones that do the voting for the coaches' teams.
Well, just think, Florida could have made a terrible mistake and hired me instead of Norm. What would have happened then? I was waiting in the other room. I was a runner-up for that job. That's what you know that. Luckily, they came to their senses and gave it to Carlson. But hey, you're right. Let me just say a word for Scott, though I haven't had a chance to deal a lot with at Florida, Scott Burns. And we've had a nice meeting recently, a nice talk, and I was really pleased to come out of that conversation feeling like he heard me. Not that I'm anybody that's important, but it's nice to know that you think you're being heard when you say something. So I think that's what most guys want. Just want to be heard, to be able to do their job the best they can. So we've been lucky to have some good ones to work with in the SEC, Scott, around the whole league, and some of the best ones. So, all right, Scott, thank you very much, buddy. I appreciate it. You want to make a comment? Go ahead.
No, yeah, I like Scott too. He's relatively new, still kind of finding his way around, navigating, when you come into the season. But I do think he's going to be a good SID at Florida. I like his approach, and I'm glad you guys met.
Yeah, coach him up. He was very, very kind, and he was very. And I look forward to having a chance to do some more things through Scott, which is what we want.
Scott is a really, really, really good guy, and understands that principle that my grandma used to say, God gave me two ears and one mouth for a reason. And Scott seems to understand that he's not there to hear himself talk, but to listen and then respond. And he does a good job.
I don't know about that comment from your grandma. I heard that recently from a friend of mine, Jeffrey Meldon, who said it to me. I don't know about that comment. Especially with your grandma's lines or something. All right, guys. Scott, thanks so much, buddy. You take care. Have a good week, okay?
Have a good night, fellas.
Carter,
Yes, Scott.
All right, Francis. I want to get your inside take now. The final few minutes again, how you feel personally. Never mind your relationship with the coach, Todd Golden, but I know this is transformative to you. Tell me in these final closing minutes what it means to Florida.
It means that you're going to have a great year and you're going to have continuity within the program. This is not going to be like we were with Dan Mullen, who all of a sudden 3 great years, three New Year's Eve bowl games, and then all of a sudden he is out the door. This isn't going to be like that. This is a guy that you look at how he has systematically built the team from 16 wins to 24 last year, to a team that potentially they get 11 games left. Let's say they go 8-3 the rest of the way, which would be a phenomenal finish in this SEC where they cannibalize each other. That would be 26 wins in the regular season. We haven't done something like that since 2014 when they made the Final Four and just had the bad luck of the draw to get a UConn team that had their number. I don't think there was another team in the country that could have beaten Florida except UConn, which had beaten them earlier in the year. But this is the best team we've had since then. You got to remember, Billy made the Final Four 4 consecutive years. So it can be done here. But you're going to have some continuity with your head coach for it to happen like that. Now we got a guy that's going to be here a while. That's what it tells me. And we've already seen he knows how to bring in guys from the portal. You look at how he's bringing along guys he's recruited like Denzel, like Tommy Hawk, like Alex Condon. He's got the right idea about how to build a roster. And kids love him. Kids love him. Parents who meet him love him. Mamas particularly love him. And as you know, buddy, mamas win most of the recruiting battles. Mm-hmm. I think we've seen how he has grown at understanding what he needs to make the team better. This year, the emphasis has been on defense and better rebounding. They're killing people on the boards and the defense. I mean, did you watch those first 10 minutes against Georgia? That was as much of a clinic about how to play defense, about how to play full court pressure defense as you're going to see anywhere. I'm watching that and I'm thinking, you know what this reminds me of? Wooden, when he had Gail Goodrich and Walt Hazard, and Keith Erickson at 6'6" was their big guy, and nobody could get the ball across midcourt on him.
Yeah.
Wooden became famous as a press guy. It wasn't until later on in his career when all of a sudden big guys wanted to come play for him, like Ferdinand Lewis Alcindor and Sidney Wicks and Curtis Rowe and then Bill Walton and David Myers. Those guys, the big guys, came along later, but he made his bones in basketball, taking smaller teams and getting the best of them out defensively by pressing people. He took the concept of what he did the last 6 minutes against South Carolina
Yeah.
and applied it to the first 10 minutes against Georgia, and it had the same effect.
Wow.
26 steals in 2 ball games. I don't know that there's another team in there that's done that in the country that's done that this year.
Not. I bet not. That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, that's impressive. So just give me this little bit of information. Was Mike White bitter? I read little snippets about how he would decline to do an interview in front of the logo, Florida logo or something. Did you read about that?
Oh yeah. And I don't, the biggest, I don't blame Mike. I mean, Mike took our fans were brutal to Mike, and Mike's a good basketball coach. I don't think he was a good fit here, and our fans let him know he wasn't a good fit here. But that doesn't change the fact that he's a terrific person. I mean, Mike White is a guy that if he's your friend, you have no better friend. Trust me. Asked Tom Collette about his son, William, who had cancer, and how Mike White was a constant caring about this guy. And, now William Collette is leading the state 2A in 3-pointers at St. Francis. I mean, my gosh.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of person he was. I don't blame him.
Big bucks, so you got to take it. If you're going to change and go over the other side, you got to be ready to take it. There's a lot of people who still
absolutely
going to South Carolina. That's just the way it is.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't blame Mike. Mike did what he thought was best for him and the peace of mind of his family. I think his wife particularly felt the brunt of some of this stuff. Mike's on the floor. He zones this stuff out. He's so focused on his team. He doesn't care what, most good coaches don't give a damn what the fans are doing because they're so focused on their team. But those wives and those kids, they feel it. They really, really get it.
Exactly.
So he's a big boy, and let's face it, how many jobs are out there that pay $4 million a year?
I think he can take it. I think he can take the. All right, Francis, I
makes
appreciate
a difference. Hey, you pay me $4 million a year, and I'll let anybody here say anything they want.
You make it 3.5 now. How much more you want to make?
Except just don't talk about my mama.
There you go. I wouldn't let him do that. Don't worry.
Say anything you want to, but don't talk about my mama.
I wouldn't let him do that. All right, Francis. Thank you, man, and be well. I'll talk at you on Thursday night on our show, and look forward to reading your more stuff on the situation with Todd Golden. I mean, life has changed as we know it, and I think it's going to be a great year to be a Gator basketball fan. That's for sure.
And if Micah comes back, they could win.
Shane said tonight he might redshirt. I don't know. Because he might.
Yeah, the severity of that injury. I mean, you got to be confident when you're coming back from something like that. And if he's not 100% confident, then he needs to redshirt.
For sure. All right, Francis. Thank you, buddy. Good job. Don't forget to read Fran's Beard on Gator Bait like the rest of us do. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. All right, folks, we'll wrap up the program tonight with this. Thanking our Monday night guest, Shane, of course, and Scott Carter and Franz talking about the good news of the night. I'm assuming you all heard. They've dropped the Title IX suit against Todd Golden, and it looks like clear sailing for this basketball team now. Good news. Also, want to thank our sponsors tonight. We mentioned our friends at Meldon Law and Titan MRI. Now, the one I'd like to talk about is each tight to close because it is so special. Are our friends in Ocala at Red Star Medical Research, who does a terrific job in our community, as well as in sponsoring programs like this one. They're all big Gator fans there. Don't get any bigger than that. And they, of course, also Mary Brantley and Joe Sorrentino started this business. And they're both from Fort Lauderdale, and they came here and started out years ago been a successful business. It's been a one that's helped us with our health. Also, big Gator fans. Married to Scott Bradley, of course, and Joe Sorrentino's son Joey, former walk-on defensive back on the Urban Meyer national championship team. He now is a dentist there in Ocala. And I've been going to him. We'll continue to go to him. You get two really good places. One's Marion Dental there in Ocala and Maricamp. And then he's got a larger office in Lady Lake. So check them out as well if you need some dental work done. As far as RenStar goes, they want you to know the importance of these things called clinical trials. It's important for you to be involved if you can. You go to renstar.net and look at what they've got going on here with these trials, and you might see one you think you might want to be a part of. They run all kinds of trials that go on different things, from whooping cough to measles to whatever it might be. They're running these trials, and you can take part of them and receive compensation for time and travel if you like. And also, it helps you. It helps RenStar, helps our community know what we need to know, which we need more data on our people in this area. So check them out. RenStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Again, thank you for our guests. Thank you for our sponsors. Thank you for listening and watching. I'm Buddy Martin. Good night.